Hello and welcome to another edition of EV Wonder. Have you ever wondered how hot it gets in the frunk or the trunk on a hot sunny day when the sun's beating down upon your car and relentlessly baking the inside of your car? Do you ever wonder if maybe the frunk was a little cooler or the trunk was a little cooler than the actual cabin of the car? No? Well, I did. So I actually made a video comparing the temperatures in the frunk with the temperatures in the trunk and the temperature on the inside of the car and the ambient temperature outside. So I want to show you what I did and what results I came up with so you'll better understand what's going on in the frunk and the trunk on especially a hot summer day. Maybe I'll make another one in the wintertime comparing the temperature in the frunk and the trunk with the outside temperature when it drops below freezing. But let's take a look. I'll show you where I put the sensors. I have a sensor in the trunk and a temperature sensor in the frunk. So let me show you the location of each one of those and what the brand is of those, and I'll post a link below as to where you can pick these up if you're interested in trying your own experiments or keeping one in there just to know how hot it is or how cold it is. So let's take a look. Okay, the thermometer in the trunk is stuck on the wheel well area on the passenger side, just inside the trunk there. It's kind of up and out of the way of everything else. And again, these are Inkbird Bluetooth thermometers. They are relatively small, smaller than a puck. And I stuck it in with a piece of Velcro, kind of hard to see there, but there it is. It's the nubby or prickly type of Velcro that sticks to these kinds of surfaces. So let's go up front and see where that one is stuck. And the one in the frunk is mounted just inside on the driver's side wall, kind of up off the floor so it's not rolling around. It, like the one in the back, is mounted with a piece of Velcro onto the wall there, and it keeps it from rolling around. And again, I'll leave a link to these Inkbird Bluetooth thermometers below. Okay, I started the experiment with the car parked in the garage so I could get some baseline numbers first. The interior was 77 in the garage, and the frunk was almost 83 degrees while the trunk was 78.5. So good starting points. The frunk starting out a little bit higher than the inside of the car, and the trunk's about more or less where the inside of the car is. So I backed the car out of the garage, making sure to keep it in the midday sun, and it was about 85 degrees that day and stayed that way pretty much all afternoon during the experiment. And I took about 20 minutes between each of these readings. So after about 20 minutes, the car gets up to 102 degrees Fahrenheit. So it really starts to rise quick on the inside with the windows closed. The frunk, as you can see, rose pretty quickly, and the trunk kind of came up a little slow. It took a while due to the volume of the trunk. I would assume it takes a little bit longer for the temperature to start rising in there, but the frunk being such a small area heated up quick. 20-30 minutes later, it was 105 inside the car, and the frunk rose up to almost 111 while the trunk started to rise and got up to 101. So now everything's starting to rise. Although the trunk is actually still lower than the actual inside of the car. So I turned the climate control on and got the inside down to 60, and I lowered the rear seats, and I wanted to see what kind of temperature I got in the trunk with the climate control on. And as you can see, the front continues to rise. Obviously, it wouldn't have any difference on the front, but the trunk starts to lower. So I took another reading about 20 minutes later. The inside of the car remained at 60. The front still continues to climb at 126 and some change, and the trunk starts to lower, which again, that's no surprise. I mean, it's going to be part of the cabin once you lower the back seats. But waited a little while longer, took another reading. The front continues to rise, and the trunk continues to lower. So at this point, I thought I'd go in a different direction, and I moved the car partially out of the sun. I moved the frunk area into the shade to see what kind of effect that would have on the temperature. The cabin temperature lowered quickly because some of the glass was out of the sun. The frunk started lowering. It went down to 109 while the trunk was about 99, held about 99. Then the frunk lowered to 99, and the trunk started rising to around 105. Then the frunk lowered even more at 97, while the trunk rose up to 106. So no surprises there. The frunk gets hot quick because of the small area, and the frunk lid actually is such a heat source, where the trunk lid has some insulation. Really, the frunk lid does not. It's just a bare piece of metal that quickly heats up and transfers that heat to the frunk. So I think that's a big reason why the frunk heats up so quickly, and the trunk is a little bit slower to heat up. Okay, the next morning I had a 400-mile drive to make, so I decided I would take a few more measurements to see what effect driving and the air over the car would make as far as the temperature in each of the two compartments. So it was a very sunny day, but it was a little cooler than normal for this time of year. I left about 7:45. Took my first reading at 8:23 in the morning, the outside temperature being 59 degrees. The frunk was 64, while the trunk was 69, so higher in the trunk than it was in the frunk. Hour and a half later or so, 9:49 a.m., I did another reading. It was 64 outside, 68 in the frunk, I'm sorry, and 73 in the trunk. And then I took my last reading at 12:30 p.m. It was 68 degrees outside, 74 degrees in the frunk, and 85 in the trunk. So much higher in the trunk than the frunk. And again, I attribute that probably as the wind going over the frunk. And again, the frunk being such a thin piece of metal there, it cooled it down, so it kept it a little cooler there than the trunk. The trunk stayed higher. I really have no explanation for that. Maybe you do. Again, it was a sunny day. The sun was directly overhead. So anybody who may have an explanation for that can leave it in the comments. Okay, a couple of suggestions for you based on what I learned. Number one, in the summertime, keep your groceries and food out of the frunk. Avoid using the frunk for any kind of storage for any lengthy period of time in the summer. If you're going to store anything that's temperature sensitive, keep it in the trunk, and maybe keep your seats folded down and the AC on the lowest temperature setting. Park in a shady area, that's a no-brainer, and use your sunshades on as many windows as possible. And if you want to see a video about the glass roof sunshades, I've got that available on my channel. Check that out and see if that's something maybe you want to invest in. Thanks a lot for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Hey, if you're buying a Model 3, Model S, or Model X, why not use my referral code and we'll both get 1,000 free supercharger miles. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you again next time.